Excellent. It's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Me too. So let's begin our journey into your work by asking you this. 5 years ago, COVID changed everything for all of us. How did you get through the pandemic of 2020, and how has it gone into your world in 2025?
The pandemic was tough, particularly as a speaker, because events essentially shut down. And I was also teaching at the time in at a university. And so everything we did that was in person went online. And so for me, learning how to connect in a Zoom box was really, really challenging. And essentially having to reinvent at a time when I love being in person. I'm an in-person person. Was particularly challenging, and so I took it upon myself to find ways to continue connecting with people genuinely through the digital space. And I'd love to say, I ditched it once we got past COVID, but the truth is, people still continue to really love being in the digital space, and so I've continued to make it a part of my business.
So let's get into your business.
Mhm.
Let's do it this way. Kids always get the truth out of us. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds. It's career day. The curious kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer him?
I do a number of things. I'm a keynote speaker. I'm a C-suite strategist. I'm a professional Latin dancer, and I'm also a lawyer by trade. So
Okay.
I do lots of different things. I've done a lot of different things. I think the thing I'm most known for is breaking the rules strategically.
So which it leads me to this. What did you want to be when you were 12 years old? What was your ultimate dream?
Oh, I wanted to be a star on Broadway.
Okay.
That's what I really wanted to be.
So how did this happen? Take me back to your childhood. Where were you born and raised? How did all of these, and this is a pretty eclectic mix of skills that you have. How were these foundational elements planted into you? How were they harvested, and how have they become who you are today?
I was born in St. Louis, and I've lived in different places, but I was born in St. Louis. And when I was a little girl, I was the oldest, and my parents got divorced when I was very young, and I was sort of thrust into the role of caretaker. I
Yeah.
don't think on purpose, but in a lot of ways, I was very responsible and needing to look after my sister, and I just grew up fast, and I really wanted to be the best at whatever I did. And I wanted to be a Broadway dancer and singer. I loved to sing and dance when I was little. Dance was always my escape. And my parents, I remember them telling me, like, you're never going to be successful as a dancer or singer. A very small fraction of people get to do that. You're smart. You need to do something that's going to make you successful and you can stand on your own 2 feet. And so I got to dance for fun and do shows, but ultimately it was my brain that they told me was really where my worth was based. And so I was like super smart, did all the things. I went to law school, won all the awards, set out to be the person that broke the glass ceiling for women and the best lawyer, the smartest, trying cases early. And that's really what I did. I wanted to be successful, and I was. If you looked at my life, you would have been like, wow, she's really successful. She's doing all the things. But on the inside, I was like, yeah, I'm not really sure this is it. I always felt like something was missing. And I felt really guilty for feeling like something was missing. I'd followed all the rules, I checked all the boxes, I'd done all the things I was supposed to do, but I kind of felt empty. So I had this secret on the side. I was a professional Latin dancer, and I used to compete on the weekends, traveling throughout the country. But I didn't let anyone in my professional world know it because I believed I wouldn't be credible, right? I'd been told this is not the thing. And then one day I'm arguing before the Missouri Supreme Court, and my husband is actually my law partner, introduces me not just as a lawyer, but as this incredible, accomplished Latin dancer. And I think my career's over. I'm so mad at him and embarrassed and mortified and all the things because I've kept these lives completely separate, as one does, right?
Yeah.
And I run to the bathroom afterward, and I'm standing there leaning on the sink, staring at my reflection in the mirror, thinking everything I've built is over. No one's ever going to hire me again. And one of the Supreme Court justices walks in, and I think she's going to tell me I'm an idiot and unprofessional. And she's like, "Oh my God, you're in here. This is the coolest thing ever. Tell me everything about your dancing. I want to know how you've done it and how do you have more in your life." And in this moment, like something just broke. And I decided, the rules I've been told to follow and this script that I've been living according to everyone else's idea about what makes me important and successful and worthy might not be true.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the beginning of starting to challenge the rules. And I started
Wow.
living differently.
Wow, that's amazing. It is amazing how our brains will trick us into thinking something just doesn't add up. But I think, especially as time has moved on, the more modern we get, there's all of these things that we all do on the side. There's always a side hustle, and especially when you get old enough, you don't want to let that dream go away. You want to live your life the way you want to. And the zygote can split, it can totally split, right?
100%. And I think, the sad part is that the fact that it has to be a side hustle and that people feel like they have to keep it as something that they minimize and be like, oh, that old thing, they don't let people know they do it. Some of those are people's greatest gifts.
Yeah.
And you have people who are doing these buttoned up, streamlined jobs because that's the professional side. And then they've got this incredibly creative side that they do something they love and they never ever combine the two. When in fact, if they did, it would open up an entire world of creativity or a new level at
Yep.
work or a new level in their life. And so, I think it's sort of the way we're conditioned, but I think it's a shame.
And it's about paying the bills, though. That's the thing. When you have these things that you want to do that may not pay as well as being in law or other professions or whatever we have to do to make ends meet for our family, that's what really gets in the way. I mean, one of my I have a jazz radio show, and one of my best friends, who's my engineer for my show, has a side hustle, and that's how I got to radio, and it's called the Neon Beat. It's the American Songbook, and that's his passion. That's what he wants to do all the time. But unfortunately, it's just not something that can pay the bills. And I think there's a lot of people that get into that, and that's what I'm at. And I guess that's my lead into you right now. How much of having the right brain and left brain commingle together has helped enhance your acumen as a lawyer, as a professional, and then also creatively? Do they feed off of each other?
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
And here's the thing I think we miss is I think anytime we say something isn't going to allow us to live the way that we want to live, it's still sort of in a paradigm that someone else has built. And here's what I mean by that. So I made a good living as a lawyer. I could have done that my entire life and I could have kept dancing hidden and I could have kept it on the side. Like I didn't switch and say, I'm going to be a professional dancer now. I didn't choose one or the other. What I did was I stopped hiding the fact that I'm a dancer and just allowed the creativity to come into my work. And so what I realized was law is actually too ruly and too strict and rigid, and I'm not really doing what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to kind of break the system and create programs. Initially, I started creating programs for girls and women to show up with confidence. And everybody said I was crazy. They were like, you're not going to make any money. Nobody's coming to that. Like, what are you doing? Your hourly rate is X and you're going to go broke and your family's going to starve. And I was like, yeah, maybe, but I want to. So I did that. And at first, nobody came and then they did. And then from there, I got hired out of law school. And at first, they didn't have a position for me, but I said, I think I can help bringing that creative side to how they were getting jobs and showing up professionally. Let me do it for 3 months. And if I do it, you'll create a position for me, you'll pay me X. And this is how we're going to do it, even though you don't think you have a budget. And they said, sure. So for 3 months, I worked for free, essentially, very small rate, achieved the thing. They ended up hiring me. So it's bringing the brains together. From there, I started working for companies and consulting. None of that was ever paved by anyone else. This isn't a path that I could say, oh, I'm going to follow it and do it this way.
Yeah.
But, in every step of the way, everybody said you're going to be broke, but I wasn't. I just continued to bring those two sides of my brain together,
Yeah.
trusting my gifts and talents to build a thing.
Yeah.
And I think we get so scared that it's not going to work out that we never do the thing that could work out.
Hmm. That's true. So, who's been that inspiration for you in your life to do everything, to evolve to where you're at today, or a heroic force?
I think it's a combination. I think it's a conglomeration. And I think it's a hard question because I think in a lot of ways, I think in a lot of ways it's sort of my kids in wanting them to see an example of someone who did it differently.
Yeah.
You know, the world tells us we have to be a certain thing. And I think because I lived that for a long time and then decided not to anymore and to really do it differently, and always had people along the way saying, what are you doing? And how's this going to work? And go back to the way it was and continuing to have to just keep going. I wanted them to have an example of somebody who did that. And so, you know, when I look at them and now they're 24 and 22, really living in this way and doing absolutely amazing things, I feel like they're the ones I continue to look at and be like, yes, this is why, because it's a whole different way of living, and showing them what's possible has been really cool for me.
So, as a keynote speaker, what's the best speech you've ever witnessed?
I think the one that inspired me the most, Brian Stevenson gave a speech um, about, gosh, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but he talked about the Southern Poverty Justice Center.
Yeah.
And it's been a minute, so I can't get in. I don't remember all the details, but he started with a story about his grandma. And I just remember sitting and watching this talk and being like, so pulled in from the very first moment, and thinking the way he told that story and the way he talked about a really, really hard thing and brought an audience together that, by the way, was probably not all in on the topic, was brilliant. And I loved it. And I thought, you know, somebody who can tell a good story and can change hearts and minds in that short of a time is somebody that's pretty cool.
So, speaking of that, if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now that might help you on your career path, that might help you evolve, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. Who I really would have loved to meet, and she's dead now, is Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have met her. She was a hero of mine for a long time, and I
Yeah.
was so sad when she passed. I would love to meet Michelle Obama.
Yeah. You know, I listened to an audiobook on Ruth and her life, and it's crazy just what she went through and how she got to where she was at. And I just wish she would have been around for another at least 10 years. I mean, and it kind of reminds me of that ilk. The best speech that I ever saw was at the Truman Library here in Kansas City. Bill Clinton came in 2003, and I still remember all of the things that he was talking about: solar panels in Brooklyn, just all of these ideas that he was putting out. But I'd never seen anybody come into a room. It was like a State of the Union. When the doors flew open, everything changed in that whole auditorium.
Mm,
Just it was euphoria, but it was this energy. It was just something I had never seen another human being do to a bunch of people before. It was
I
wild.
love that. I love that. You know what I loved about Ruth Bader Ginsburg so
Yeah.
much that I think we need today is she disagreed
Uh-huh.
strongly with her colleagues a
Uh-huh.
lot of the time, but the respect that they had and the way
Yep.
that they worked together was something we just don't see now.
No.
And I loved that about her.
That's the unfortunate thing about what we're going through right now. I think more about the kids, what they're witnessing, and what is getting imbued in them that's going to eventually go somewhere decades from now. The
Mhm.
civility, the respect, the level of decorum, all of those things that were a part, no matter how misaligned the government can be, either side of the aisle, and the way that they operate and the way they do things, the lying, the dishonesty, all of that stuff is always going to be there, but there's this level of shine. There's this level of, when I was a kid, I remember when the big, huge moment for me was in '86 when the shuttle exploded, and we were all kids. I was in middle school, and witnessing that, I remember Reagan got on and spoke to everybody and calmed everybody down. And presidents typically will do that. There's a level of like leadership, and it's like large swaths of that have just been absolutely eroded away in our modern world right now. There's not this comforting voice, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, and that's the thing that's unfortunate. That
Yeah.
like what Ruth was doing. I mean, it's like she was very strongly, and that they talked about that a lot in the book. She was very against even people that were on the same political side of her, and she just wasn't going to do it. But everything was fine after they were done when they left the bench.
Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to my husband. I just flew home yesterday, or 2 days ago from Florida, and I flew with my dog. And I said you can really tell the state of how people are feeling when you walk through the airport with a dog.
Yeah,
Because it used to be that, puppies, everybody loves puppies. Who doesn't love a puppy? My dog
sure.
is so super cute.
Yeah,
And kids especially would
hmm,
see a dog and be like, a puppy, right? And
yeah,
pet the puppy and want to. And now you walk through with the puppy and the kids reflect the parents. And so, there's all these people who have this attitude of like, what is a dog doing in an airport? And
uh-huh,
you don't look disabled, so therefore you shouldn't have a dog. And
uh-huh,
the kids, these little kids are like, they have the same like anger on their faces as the parents. And then
absolutely,
you'll see other people who are just like, oh my gosh, puppy, and
uh-huh,
all, but like the difference in the demeanor of
hmm,
people just in that small space is like this microcosm of our mood.
yep,
And something that shouldn't be polarizing at all, a dog that's this big
sure,
is like this barometer of where we are. And it's, to your point, I think about my kids and the world and
yeah.
just, the mood in general. And it's like, wow, we're so polarized and just, agitated as a whole.
Yeah. Which is why I love the world of podcasting. It's like we're illuminating so many wonderful people that are really doing great things that's
Yeah,
totally anterior to what the media gives us. We get
100%.
this black and white world, but in here it's the gray matter. It's like what's really happening, and it's all really good. We're all trying to go towards kind of the same level of ends to the means, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, you know. So let me ask you this. What is your motivation every day to do this work? Do you see some level of Libra scale balance? What is the ultimate motivator for you to take care of yourself and to also take care of business?
The biggest thing for me is that I think I love the idea of people feeling like they've done what they really came to do in this life. There's just something about that that's always felt really important to me. And I hate the idea of suppressed potential. I know what it felt like for me when I was living this life where I checked all the boxes and done all the things I've been told to do, and I still felt like I had more. There was something. And also this feeling of guilt of like I didn't appreciate what I had when I had everything I was supposed to have according to what everyone thought.
Yeah,
And so I am really deeply motivated to help people unlock sort of that full capacity of whatever it is.
yeah,
And for them to just know that, you might have been told you can only do it a certain way, or the rules tell you it has to look this way for it to be right, or there's only one path. And the truth is, it's just not. And, there's 9 billion people on the planet. Every single one of us has a different set of gifts and talents. And I truly, truly believe that when we free ourselves up to kind of bring our biggest, best selves to whatever it is we do, that we feel that sense of fulfillment. And I really love sort of shaking the paradigm to let people know, like, hey, if it's not working for you, it's okay. Set it down and come build something differently. And doing that with leaders and organizations and people who can impact the lives of others and who actually care about people, it freaking lights me up. I love it.
So let me ask you this. If you were to have a dream tonight and ran into that 18-year-old version of you, ready to go out into the world, fired up, ready to go, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've accumulated over these years, what advice would you impart?
I would say do it sooner. Don't be scared.
Yeah.
Don't be scared. Don't hide. Just it's okay. Like, not everybody's going to get it, and that's all right. Just do your thing.
What's the greatest day event that you ever danced in? To this day was one of the most exhilarating moments ever.
So this one I know for sure. It was the year I was supposed to win nationals. I was supposed to win. It had been coming for me for like 7 years. And I got to the hotel and I was ready and I went to get ready and I didn't want to dance. Like did not want to dance for the first time in my life. Like
Wow.
something happened and I was sitting on the bed and all I could think about was all the training I'd done, all the sacrificing I'd done, and I like nothing in my body was going to get ready. And I looked over at the beautiful dress that was hanging there. I didn't want to wear it. Like I was just having this complete crisis. And I thought about going home and just packing it all up, like maybe I'm done. And then I had this thought of like, well, if you're here, right? Like maybe you should dance. What would it take? And this wild idea in the back of my head was like, well, maybe I would dance in a cat suit because there had been a show the night before and someone wore this cat, like it's a pantsuit, which you do not compete in
Yeah.
Latin dancing. And it was hot and fun and wild. So I was like, why the hell not? So I went down to my sponsor who had the cat suit and I said, I want to wear that to compete today. And she was like, no, absolutely not. You'll lose. And I said, but I'm not going to dance otherwise. I don't feel like dancing. Just give it to me. Let me do it. She was like, you cannot. And it tried to talk me out of it, all the reasons. It's your year to win. You're going to lose if you wear it. It's inappropriate. And I was like, but I just feel like it. And so we fought for a little bit. She ended up giving it to me, told me it was my funeral. Her last words, I'll never forget it. I ended up putting it on. I canceled my hair and makeup, did my own hair. I left it down. I went down there. I danced the best I have ever danced in my life. It was the best competition. I just went out there and just did my thing. I was
Yeah.
so happy, so free. None of the rules, lost, completely lost. Everybody's like, did you win? I'm like, no, I lost. The judges were furious. My coaches were furious. Everybody was like, what the hell did you just do? But for me, it was like, this is who I am and this
Yeah.
is who I want to be on the floor.
Wow.
And it was the best. And footnote, I continued to wear cat suits for the next 3 years, won the national championship in a cat suit 3 years later with like five other people wearing cat suits on the floor at
Wow.
the
See,
time.
there you go. There you go. I remember years ago at the Olympics, Simone Biles got out because she had a mental block, I think. There was something mentally, and that can
Yes,
happen. I think when
yes.
you are a competitor, I think there's parts of you where it just won't happen, you know? Um, but it seems like it was more of an existential crisis that turned into a field of poppies. So it's good
Yeah.
for sure. So let me ask you this. Of everything that you've done at this point in your life, and more importantly, evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
Hmm. It's a good question. I think I'm proudest of the courage to walk away from what wasn't working,
Yeah,
honestly. It's really hard when everybody tells you that what you're doing doesn't make any sense and that you're going to fail
yeah,
and that you've invested all this money in this career and that you have all this success and you've gotten a lot of respect for it. I had a lot of respect and I walked away and people were not happy with me. And when I look back on the day that I did that and what it felt like to do that, I was so scared. I've never been so scared in my life.
yeah.
And I'm not even sure how I managed to do it, but yet I did. And I'm so proud of that because it has opened the door to everything I've ever wanted. And truly the life that I'm living
Yeah.
is the life I was meant to live.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. There's all these different circles, family, friends, clients, everyone from the dance world, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's
Yep.
your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Who do I think I am? Um, I think I'm somebody who just loves to lift people up
Yeah,
and I love to have fun. I try to do good, and when I don't, I try to do better. Um, I don't think I'm nearly as tough as people think I am. I'm always surprised that people think I am so tough. Um, I love animals and I love time alone. People think I'm so much more extroverted than I am.
yeah,
I'm not.
yeah. So what's the greatest thing about living in St. Louis?
Oh God. Getting to visit Miami. um,
Because we're right in the center. It's like that's people say that about Kansas City. You know, you're right in the center. You can get wherever you need to go in a better economy than other parts of the country.
I shouldn't be so dismissive of St. Louis. St. Louis has been a great place. I brought my kids up in St. Louis and it was a really, really, it's a good family town in terms
Yeah,
of, cost of living. I feel like it lacks community and diversity, and I miss that.
Yeah.
I wish that it were more connected in ways that matter.
Yeah.
It kind of feels kind of distinct and separate, and I think we can do better about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. So if anyone has questions, they want to reach out, they want to hire you, any of the good business, where do they go?
KimBolourtchi.com, my website. That's KimBolourtchi, or LinkedIn. So either of those places are easy to find me. And I do have a new book coming out October 21st
Okay.
called Strategic Unruliness. You're hearing it first here because we just picked the publishing date. So I'm excited
Excellent.
to announce that.
That's awesome. That's totally awesome. I actually just on October 28th of last year, I released my first book. I've been writing poetry for years and found a publisher. And yeah, that's always just so much fun to go down that avenue. And it's a lot of work, but it's a great adventure.
I love it.
Yeah, it is. It's wonderful. What a great conversation. Thank you so much for opening your world up. Best of luck with everything. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking with you. And I hope
Absolutely.
you get some White Castle soon.
Yeah,
Looking to get new clients to your business through cold calling or email marketing? At Agency Y, they envision a world in which small and big companies have equal chances to win new customers in the market. Their purpose is to bring parity and reduce the gap between large and small firms with the help of their cold calling and cold email marketing services. Use the code Joe Dimino 10 at www.agencyyyy.org/coldcallingjoe.php or www.agencyyyy.org/emailmarketingjoe.php to get 10% off your first order. This is Joe Dimino of Neon Jazz and Famous Interviews, and I stand behind Agency Y to meet your business dreams.